Hey everybody. So for this issue, I'm actually bringing to you an interview with Praying Mantis Martial Arts Institute. They're actually one of the oldest Praying Mantis school in New York City. They've been around for about 40 years. Now I've reached out to them, and Master Tony Chu is not able to do it, and we'll explain it in the video why. His communications manager or second in command, Vance Young, will be subbing for him. So one of the things you might want to check out about the school if you're interested in learning praying mantis. I am very interested in learning. I've been learning. I like watching Jackie Chan when he does the praying mantis. So basically, Tony Chu, he has a genealogy. He goes all the way down, and this is him down here. So you know where exactly the school comes from. So you could actually practice the videos on here, practice the different forms. He has a YouTube video, YouTube channel that you can go, and you can learn more about the lion dance, learn more about the different schedule, his facts about it, and you can contact the company here and everything. Okay, look forward to having you watch the interview. Have a great time. Hi, I currently have Vance Young from the Praying Mantis Martial Arts Institute. Did I get that correct?
That's right.
All right. And I welcome you. The reason I started interviewing local businesses is because I started this in February 2021, and I've been interviewing local businesses because COVID has actually impacted the businesses in Chinatown, and so it's really hurt a lot of the businesses. Foot traffic, revenues down, and so want to get people to actually who are sitting at home to get to know the business owners. So Vance, pleasure meeting you.
Thank you, Benson.
Yeah, thank you. Now, I asked you. I reached out to a number of martial arts company, and you're one of the ones that actually responded back. And so we're going to talk about your school, the Praying Mantis, and how they got started and everything. And before I go on, who's the master that runs the school?
Okay. So first of all, I just want to say thank you, Benson. I think what you're doing for the community is great. And it's one of the reasons why my seafood, Tony Chu, when he got your email, said, he talked to me about it, and then we watched some of your videos, and we thought what you're doing for the community is great. So we want to help support you.
Thank you.
So as I mentioned, my seafood's name is Tony Chu. In Cantonese, it's Chu Chu Yin. And so Sifu, when he got your email, so a lot of the communications I actually do for him, or I help him with. So things like the website information, or other communications he'll have on behalf of the school. We've been publishing a lot of YouTube videos, and I've been helping him with that. Okay. So I almost think of myself as his communications person, and it's one of the reasons why he asked me to take this on. Sifu wasn't born in the U.S. He was actually born in Hong Kong, and even though he's been here practically his entire adult life, he's a very humble man. He's probably one of the most humble people I know. And so as this is an interview and we're speaking, he still looks at me, it's like, hey, you're the ABC, you take this interview for me. I trust you with representing me in the school. So that's how, Sifu, otherwise, he and I definitely talked about it. He says, this is for the community. He appreciates what you're doing. So that's why we decided to accept this.
Thank you. So about the school, how long has it been there? When did you guys start?
So the school opened in 1982. Sifu was living in New York. He was still studying from his. He will credit two teachers, two Sifus. One is Brendan Lai, late Master Brendan Lai. He was based in San Francisco, and he would have been what is referred to as 7-star or Northern Praying Mantis. And then his other Sifu was in Hong Kong, Sifu Zhu Kai. And Sifu Zhu Kai was the Tai Chi Praying Mantis style. Right? So Praying Mantis actually has several different styles, and we'll probably get into that too. But these are his two primary Sifus who taught him Praying Mantis. And it was in 1982 that Sifu, our Sigong, my Sigong Brendan Lai, gave him permission to go and open a school and take on students in New York.
Oh, wow.
So that's when he started. And we've been mostly throughout the years, the school's moved a few various locations. Currently, we're in Chinatown at 100 Bowery on the 5th floor. and we've been there for quite a few years now. But prior to that, when we first started, the school was primarily in Midtown,
Okay.
around Herald Square or Times Square in those areas, and it moved a few times in that neighborhood. But we eventually came down to Chinatown several years ago, and that's where we've been ever since. So Sifu started in 1982, and I started with him in 1986.
Wow. So it's almost
Yeah, it's almost 40 years next year.
oh
So
my
yeah,
God. Okay.
it'll be our 39th anniversary this year.
Wow. What exactly does the praying mantis mean? The population. What who comes to you guys to learn praying mantis?
I know, over the years, we've really had students from every walk of life.
Okay.
We've had people in the financial industry, we've had doctors, really, literally every industry. I can't think of one that wasn't represented. We've had people who were professional chefs. We have people who
Wow.
are, in the professional world and students. So really, just anyone who was interested in learning martial arts, learning specifically Chinese martial arts. They would come and visit the school, and Sifa always makes them do they watch a class first, see if this is, every school is kind of run a little bit differently,
Okay.
and so we have them come and observe a class, see if this is the type of structure that they are expecting, see if this is the type of activity that they're, because everyone has a vision of what kung fu class or kung fu school should look like, and so it always has to be a right fit. And then eventually, if they express interest in studying with Sifu, he does a one-on-one interview with them, tries to understand more about what their expectations are, and basically just tries to find out more about them before taking them on so yeah, we've had all kinds of people, and part of it, I know in the beginning, a lot of them were actually business professionals, and we found, at least Sifu found, being in Midtown was just more of a central location. Okay. We had people coming from outside of the five boroughs, so being close to Grand Central or Penn Station was also very convenient. As far as people being able to come maybe after work and then being able to go home afterwards.
You guys, like what age group do you guys also service?
So primarily adults, and for a long time, Sifu found that he didn't like accepting young children or even So for a while, I think the age requirement was at least 14 and above. He felt like studying martial arts, the way that he wants to teach it, there is a certain amount of maturity and responsibility that teaching, I think, young children is different, and not to take away from anyone who does, and there are plenty of schools that teach very young children martial arts, but we do believe it's different teaching very young children. And we've been invited a couple of times to teach, for example, down in Chinatown. I actually started with him. He was teaching a children's class at Transfiguration Church, and that's how I actually met him. So it was I wasn't part of the formal school, which was in Midtown, but he was doing it as like a community-based offering. I think the church had reached out to him to say, hey, would you want to teach a children's class? And so that's how I actually got involved with him and was there with him in the Chinese class, in the Chinatown children's class for about 1.5 to 2 years, once a week for about 2 hours before, I think by that time I was 15 or so, and he invited me to join. Like he saw that I was getting more serious about it. And she said, well, do you want to come and join and take classes at the regular school? So over the years, that's kind of been the guideline, although he on occasion will take a younger student here and there. Okay. Many of us are now getting older and having children of our own, and so we've also taken our own children down to the school to have them learn from either their my classmates and eventually with Sifu as well.
I know a lot. I've been looking at YouTube. I see a lot of videos on like martial arts. How different is that learning from in person versus learning from video or book?
The video correspondence kung fu or martial arts training has been around for a long time, even before YouTube, right? I remember growing up back in the 80s and 70s, as soon as videotape came out, there were ads in like Inside Kung Fu magazine all the time selling videotapes on how to learn martial arts. And I get that for people who don't have that accessible to them. Maybe they're in a place where there just aren't any real kung fu schools or general in martial arts schools, and maybe that's their only way without having to relocate to find, some kind of instruction, but it is very difficult, I think. If you were just learning forms, if that was the sole purpose of your learning martial arts, then yes, you can watch a video and you can mimic the movements and be able to learn a sequence of form, right? But I think to really learn martial arts, the way that I think is more traditional, where you have to have that kind of hands-on instruction, right? An instructor to correct your movements, and really to learn martial arts. It's not really possible if you're learning the martial aspects of it to do it solo. You need at least a partner. You need someone to practice techniques against, to do to learn the fighting skills, because otherwise you can't learn any of that just by learning forms, right? That's just the forms are an integral part of our training. It is how we learn our body mechanics, and there are things you can learn from, like balance and stamina and focus. To some extent, power generation, but eventually you need something to hit against. So whether it's a punching bag or another live person, but there are steps to a progression. And it has been difficult with COVID. I know some people have gone to doing kind of like a video, like over Zoom. Mm-hmm. And I think for someone who is already been in training, to be able to continue that during COVID over a video has been doable as far as learning additional sequences and movements. And eventually, we all wait to get back into the school where we can touch hands, if you will, right? And do what we refer to as san sao, or two-hand sparring, or two-person sparring. Because you need that aspect in order to really say that you're training martial arts. You can't be just practicing the forms.
I know that there are different classes. You mentioned different styles of Praying Mantis. Once I looked on, I saw Northern, I saw Southern. What are the different styles? Which one is best? Which one should fight with?
There's no saying best. We say, like in Chinese, "molam." Yapka, we are all molam. It means the martial arts world. We're all one family. We're all martial arts are created, and really no one can say that one is better than the other, because in the end it's about the practitioner. It's about the person practicing. Am I better than you has nothing to do with what style we're studying. It's whether or not I have been able to apply what I learned, whether am I a better fighter, really, when it comes down to it. Am I, it might not even be the techniques that I've studied and practiced. It's my reaction time. It's my ability to recognize the opportunities in a confrontation. So it doesn't necessarily come down to the style, but the training, and then your understanding and your ability to transfer what you've practiced into an applicable technique, right, or application. So I'm going to stay away from that what is best conversation, because there's really no answer to that one, right?
You'll never win that question.
But it's, so then the question is, why Praying Mantis? Why did I pick up Praying Mantis, or why did I choose this style? And because there are a myriad of styles, right? Not just the Chinese styles, not just the Chinese kungfu martial arts styles, but all across the world, not just Asia. There's martial arts everywhere. Part of it for me is, I mentioned earlier, I was born in America. I was born here in New York City, in fact. And at some point, I was introduced to Bruce Lee, when I was young, and that was one of the first. As for many people, your first, wow. And then it was the Saturday afternoon kung fu movies, right? Like at 3:00 on Channel 5. All of those Run Shaw, the Shaw Brothers movies, that was a huge influence on me. And then later on, by the time Jackie Chan kind of came around, I think I'd already started studying it. But he was, and that was a whole nother kind of influence of martial arts. But I actually happened to meet Sifu. I remember actually watching him give performances in Chinatown. So again, he started teaching in 1982. And my sisters did Chinese dance in Chinatown since they were very young. I have 3 sisters, and 2 of them had been doing Chinese dance with the teacher in Chinatown. And at times when they would do, like, there used to be this summer cultural festival in Columbus Park, and my sisters would be there dancing, and then inevitably I would see my Sifu, who eventually became my Sifu, Sifu Tony Chu, with his students giving a demonstration. And I remember just like, wow, their stuff looks so great, and and I personally hadn't really picked up a martial art yet. When I was very young, my dad used to do Tai Chi,
Okay.
and he used to bring me along. And for some reason, he was studying with someone who spoke Mandarin, and because that Sifu was from Taiwan, and I didn't understand Mandarin at all, so it was always very intimidating for me to interact with my dad's Tai Chi Sifu, because he'd only look at me and then he'd speak to me in Mandarin, and I'm just like lost. But so I don't really count, the little bit that I picked up of Tai Chi back then, because I was really just going with my father. My father wanted me to do it. But as an 8-year-old trying to learn Tai Chi, it was very Tai Chi is practiced generally very slowly,
Yes.
Yang style Tai Chi. And so to an 8-year-old, I didn't have the patience. I didn't understand what I was doing. I didn't understand the martial aspects of Tai Chi, which is in a very effective style. But so it wasn't a right fit for me at that age. And so I remember watching Sifu during performances, and I think it was through my sister's dance. One of their dance classmates had a brother who was studying with Sifu, and that's how I got introduced to him. But I just always enjoyed the way that the movements of this particular style, and really just kind of got hooked, and have through the years I've been exposed to a lot of the other styles. We come together for various events, and
Okay.
and we'll go perform for other schools, anniversaries, and they come in and perform at ours. So I've gotten to see a lot of different Chinese martial arts styles, but
Okay.
I guess it's what you get exposed to, and then you just that's what you like. So that's how I'm with the Praying Mantis style. But yeah, so there's Northern and Southern that are completely separate in how they formed, and I'm not intimate in the knowledge of how the Southern Mantis style came about, but so it used to be where Praying Mantis was just Praying Mantis, and it was where you would say Tong Long Kun, or in China they'd say Tong Long Chen in Mandarin, and it would refer to basically this style, what we refer to as Northern Praying Mantis, that originated in Shandong, in the Shantung province, and then at some point it kind of just splintered, and depending on which generation, they may have taken a slightly different approach to the training, or they maybe had a different background prior to doing the Praying Mantis stuff, and then they created different branches. The predominant ones are 7-star, Casing Tong Long. There's a Mui Fa Tong Long, Plum Flower Tong Long, Tai Gig Tong Long, or Tai Chi Praying Mantis, Lok Hup Tong Long, 6 Harmony, and Bat Bo Tong Long, 8-step Praying Mantis. So there are many different branches of the Praying Mantis style that eventually rolls up to what was originally created in the Shantung province by a man called Wang Long. Right, that's who we attribute as the founder of our Praying Mantis style.
I was looking at your website, and you guys have a lot of information on there. So whoever's actually looking at the school, check out the website, because there's so much information on there. One of the things I noticed that you guys actually listed out the genealogy.
Mm-hmm.
How important is that?
So I think genealogy shows the authenticity of the information, right? There are a lot of people out there who claim to be representing a specific style or a specific martial art, and you don't know if they're authentic or not, right? And there are some who don't claim any genealogy for whatever reason, whether they have multiple or for whatever reason. But we feel like the genealogy is more because it's like our family history. It shows where the information comes from, right?
Okay.
In Chinese, there's a phrase yum ser si yun, right? When you drink water, you think of where it originated from, right? And so history is very important to us, tradition. Where did this come from? How did I get this information? From my Sifu. Well, where did he get this from? From his Sifu, like that Chung. Where did he get it from? From his Sifu in Hong Kong, Wang Wan Fan, right? And so you can trace it back, and you know that this was legitimately passed down, that it wasn't just, I didn't just make it up and then try to pass this off as Praying Mantis, right? That is legitimately passed down from generation to generation. So yeah, genealogy, I think for those who feel that that's important, right? And there, maybe for others it's not important. Is what you do effective? Can you prove that what you teach can be applied? And for those people, then that's fine too, right? So there's something for everyone out there, right? And so, but we put it out there because we do believe, we have a legitimate genealogy to show, and then this is and we show our respect to our ancestors by making it clear. We have the school has what we refer to as a santoi, like an altar, but the altar really means it's just where we put pictures of our ancestors, and we show our respect to them, acknowledge that they passed the information down, so that we can have it today.
The people who come to learn from you, usually at what stage are they interested in learning? I mean,
Really everything. We've had people who've never studied a martial art before.
okay.
We've had people who have even been certified as a Sifu in Praying Mantis from a different lineage or different genealogy, and came to New York and sought out Sifu and want to learn from him. And in generally in any situation, we have them start over, right? Because even though they might have learned Praying Mantis from somebody else, they might have learned it slightly differently. Maybe their body mechanics are a little bit different. Each style of Praying Mantis, even how you can watch it now. I mean, now with YouTube, everything you can see all kinds of things, right? And you can compare, and there might be a different way of generating power from one school to another. And if you're serious about wanting to learn how we do it, then what we ask is that people come, and there's the phrase emptying your cup, right? You forget what you learned before. If you're serious about wanting to learn our system, our style, the way that our Sifu Tony Chu teaches it, then you got to come with that open mind and willingness to forget what you've learned before, and really start over again. The exceptions are, there might be someone who wants to come and they're a certified instructor, and they're really just interested in understanding a little bit more about Praying Mantis, and maybe they'll just ask to learn a form or learn something specific from Sifu, and that's between him and them, and that. But those have happened too, right? On occasion, usually might be if it's a student of a friend of his who's also a Sifu from a different style. They're coming over to want to learn something from us or from him specifically. Oh, Sifu Tony Chu, I admire your 3-sectional staff form. Would you teach it to me? And especially if the request comes through that person's teacher, and that's really kind of like the traditional way. You don't cold call someone, a Sifu, and say like, hey, I want to learn something from you. If you are already studying from someone else, and there's that bit of the traditionalists that in the olden times, I'm a disciple of my Sifu Tony Chu, I wouldn't just go up to someone. I wouldn't go to Norman Chu and say, I want to study from you too, right there, because I'm already studying and a disciple with Tony Chu. You have to have your Sifu's permission. Now it so happens that they're friends, and so there has been some cross training because we might find it useful, as a comparison. We are primarily what's considered a northern style, and Chinese Kung Fu can also be split between northern and southern, right? Based on geographical region, and there are some generalizations that can be made about northern styles versus southern styles. But oftentimes we might cross train in weapons. Okay. Sifu, when he started in Hong Kong, actually started in Choi Lei Fut, which is a southern style. And so we've retained some of those forms, those weapon forms, because it's like just a counter, a balance to the northern methodology. Just an example, northern spear play generally holds the butt of the spear in the right hand, and then your guiding hand, the front hand, is the left. Whereas in southern styles, it's predominantly the other way around, right? Where the right hand is in front, and so these are kind of like fundamental differences between northern and southern, but to be able to be exposed to different ones just kind of helps round us out and gives us a greater understanding of Chinese martial arts as a whole.
What about private lessons? If someone just wanted to take private,
Sifu's done that in the past too. I don't know what rates are anymore. Actually, okay. It's been a while. I graduated from the school many years ago, but I've continued to stay on with him as an assistant instructor.
Okay.
That also has gotten a little bit harder once I got married and had children, and my career continues to grow. And so the amount of time I can spend in school has been varied over the years. Okay. But yes, Sifu's often, he has delivered, even for, there might be some students who come for regular class, so they're coming in and participating in group classes, but then they also want to do additional training with him as a private instruction. And so he'll offer that, or he'll do that as well. And then there's some students who just come and just do private classes because they don't want to necessarily be. But those are all basically if someone is interested in that, interested in that, then they would come and speak to Sifu directly.
How effective is the Praying Mantis for, I guess, I mean, with a lot of things that's going on in New York City for street fighting?
Well, I'll say, like, as I mentioned before, I think when it comes to applying martial arts and using it in a real situation, it does often come down to your training. So not just the practice of the techniques, but training for the situation, right? First and foremost, we want to avoid confrontation,
Okay.
right? But when you have to rely on the skills that you've been training on, and also being able to manage that flight or fight, moment that happens, being able to manage your emotions. And so that comes through certain types of training too, like maybe sparring training, where you're asked to, there's a progression to how we do our training. So
Okay.
first you do the forms to learn the movements, to work out your body mechanics. Then we do work on a punching bag, something that we can strike and develop power and focus without injuring someone else. Then we work on partner drills, right? So actually taking the techniques out of the forms and learning to apply them, learning to sequence them together. If a person in a controlled response, so first it's if a person throws a right punch and if a person throws a left punch, or if they're standing in this particular direction, how do I interact? And then as I applied my first technique, if they block or don't block, how do I follow up? And so we do a lot of repetition this way, just so that we can feel like it's almost second nature, reflexive. Then you add in other components of, well, now I don't know how this person's going to attack me, right? But you're still initially, and this is the advantage of doing this in a school with your classmates. We know that we're not trying to hurt each other, but we're trying to get each of us to be the best that we can be, right? So I'm going to make it challenging, but I'm not trying to hurt you because you're my brother. We're training together. That the whole goal is to become better at what we are doing. So we go through that. We do a lot of partner exercises. First with a known sequence, then we start adding layers of unknown, and then to the point of just doing free sparring where still I don't know what you're doing. I don't know how you're going to attack me or how you're going to react to my counterattacks, and you build that up. So applying that, then transferring that to the street, again, a lot of that can depend on how well you've done that training, but then a lot of that is innate in yourself. Am I able to transfer what I've been training in the school in a controlled environment to a situation where I could be flooded with emotions, unsure of what to do? And I don't think that's specific to any particular style or school. It really comes down to the individual and how much they can take in what they've learned and then be able to apply it in that situation. Okay. But in the end, I do believe that the style is, first of all, any training can be helpful, right? So long as you've trained in it and you've practiced it. I think the techniques for the Praying Mantis style are very effective. I think any style, as long as you put in the time and you work on it, anything can help.
In your school, so what is the time frame to from 0 to 6 months, a year?
So a lot of that also depends on the individual, how often they want to come. When I first started with Sifu when I was 13, 14, it was once a week. I went, on a Saturday once a week for 2 hours. And then as I progressed, at one point in my late teens and early 20s, it was 6 days a week at the school every day, right? So it really comes down to how much time you put into it and how well you learn. There are some people who can pick things up immediately, and there are others who require a little bit more time, right? It's just harder for them to. So we used to say, there's some people who come in off the street and they start with him and they can't walk and chew gum at the same time. That's the favorite phrase of his, right? Just some people are not as naturally coordinated as others. And for Sifu, that was always like a challenge to him. Like if you were a student of his who was sincere in wanting to learn, who came in and really showed that, they wanted to do this, he would find a way to teach them, right? Like if for some reason the way that he had been teaching it wasn't working, wasn't clicking for this one student, then over the years he'd figure out how to break down this movement.
Okay.
And to say, well, why can't this student get it? And he'd figure out how to get them to learn it. So he does believe anyone who wants to learn can. They have to be willing to do it, and he also then puts in the time to help them understand how to do it, and then it just becomes practice. But in general, a beginner comes in. So for the first 6 months is what we refer to as like the beginner stage. So on average, it takes about 6 months to get past beginner, and then from then on, we followed. We don't have belts. We don't have colored belts, but we do follow a gradation system that was designed by the what was referred to as the Tsingmo Athletic Association. Tsingmo Taiyokboy. It was a revolutionary kind of organization at the time. It was founded in Shanghai by a man named Fa Yun-ga. And there are movies based on this. Fearless, Jet Li's Fearless. That's the story of the Tsingmo Association. Loosely, I think they took some poetic license with the story, but there was the first time they brought in multiple students, multiple masters of different styles to teach at basically what was an academy of different styles. And so we do like basic, intermediate, advanced as the basic level. So as you progress, you go from beginner to being a basic level student. There's a certain requirements that you need to achieve, both in forms and in like two-man training. And then you go from basic to intermediate to advanced. After advanced, it's just, we refer to that, there's a period of, you're either instructor in training, it's called like Duck Cup, the special level. So you've gone past advanced. There's still other stuff that you can learn. Once you get past that, then you can be considered graduated from the system. But even though I've been graduated for many years, I feel like there's still stuff that I can learn from Sifu. Right? He's got so much stuff that he's also acquired over the years from not just his own specific teachers, but his teachers' classmates, his sisokbak, right? His kung fu uncles, who all have different stuff. And we've picked up things from other Sifus. Like I mentioned, Sifu will befriend Sifus of other styles, and they've come and taught us different things over the years. So there's always something to learn. The journey never ends.
I have two questions, mainly from someone that actually I reached out to ask, and he said that what are you guys' strategy to combat rising crime and Asian violence?
Yeah, so it's really sad to hear about all the rise in anti-Asian violence, even though really it's been part of our American history for so long. But especially now, it's hard to even turn on the news and not hear about another incident. We don't port any kind of vigilantism. We're not roaming the streets to try to stop or stop these from happening. But it goes back to for a lot of us, why do we train? And hopefully it's for some of us it's for self-defense. I know for myself, one of the reasons I started martial arts was, as a kid, I was actually quite timid. I was not overly aggressive, and I had been mugged. I think I had my bike taken from me, and I had my watch taken from me, and so I remember that feeling of feeling kind of helpless at that moment, and talking to my parents about it, and they thought, studying a martial art would help me have a little bit more confidence and the ability to perhaps protect myself in a situation. And you never know what'll happen on the street. Whether it's a knife or a gun or whatever. I mean, there's just all kinds of things that can happen. So, but in the end, I feel like it has helped me to feel more secure about myself and as I grow up in New York City and riding in the subways. I started riding the subways by myself at the age of 10, 11. Not that I felt like I was suddenly invincible. And in fact, I will say that learning martial arts, we go through a period, at least for me, where after the first couple of years, you feel like you know a lot. And you feel like, oh yeah, I can do all this because I've learned all these techniques and I'm doing so well in class. And then as you mature, you realize, oh, there's so much more I don't know. And you kind of gain that humility about like your abilities. And so it's this kind of evolving thing. as it pertains to today, I think we hope that those of us who've been training and people who come up looking for ways to protect themselves, we are able to provide that. We've done in the past. We've even done like self-defense workshops, and we haven't done it lately just because of COVID and the school's actually been kind of dormant because of COVID. We closed the doors for over a year, just out of safety for each other and for anyone else coming up. But yeah, I think for those who want to gain those skills, there's only so much you can get out of a one-day seminar. You might be taught some techniques in a real like dire situation that you can hope to apply, and maybe it'll get you out of a situation. But the best bet is to avoid them at all costs, right? And it's tough. I'm this whole thing about like speaking up, and I've been a part of that. Growing up, I've had these microaggressions. I've had people make comments to me, and I've always said, well, they were just words, and I'm not otherwise harmed in any way. And we let them go. And what happens now, I think it's been escalating. And now people feel like, well, if I can get away with just saying words, I can get away with more. And I think this is where some of this physical violence has come about. We've stayed quiet. We as a culture, and I'm making generalizations, of course, right? But I know it's been part of my upbringing. Even being born in New York, my parents are immigrants, and I think I still carry some of those traditional values of, you stay quiet, you don't challenge the system, if no one's injured, you let it go. Like we try not to make a big deal out of things. And now we try to stand up and speak up and say that this isn't right. There's no reason why we have to accept that type of behavior, and with that might come some physical confrontation. And so we try to avoid that still. I know for me, and I have young children now, so I worry about that all the time. My children haven't started training yet. That's a whole nother conversation. Me hoping that they will at one point, but they're still young, so I'll give them time. But it is a real thing to think about, and hopefully, my Sifu Tony Chu, he spent years in law enforcement, so to him this is he's been an instructor for the Corrections Academy, so this is also a very important subject. How do we what can we do about it? And I think we're still trying to figure it out too. We haven't set up any seminars or classes just yet because we're still trying to figure out what we're going to do with as hopefully exiting COVID. But that might be something where we'll think about, and what is the appropriate level to what do we teach in a seminar, right? Because again, like I said before, a one-day class is really, you really just kind of scratching the surface. But hopefully some basic kind of escape techniques. At the very most, you want to like get out of a situation, to be able to walk away from it, with as minimal contact. We're not going to train anyone to kind of, subdue and control, or because that really does require a lot of training, right? You're not going to learn how to restrain someone in a one-day seminar. I mean, we train this all the time. It is actually part of some of the things that we practice is not just punching, kicking, but controlling, grappling, arm locking, controlling the opponent. And we spend years practicing.
My other question is, how you guys doing to help grow after?
I'm not sure what we're able to do about it. Even for us, like I mentioned before, the school's been closed out of safety and health reasons. So even our own business, or Sifu's business, I don't have any stake in it, but in the school itself, the operations of the school, it's been tough. Like he still has rent to pay, and we as students will continue to try to support the school. But yeah, coming out of COVID, I think it's getting more people to come down to Chinatown. I think things that like you're doing right now, this is great. Raising awareness to the different businesses, not just our own, but I've watched many of your videos, and bringing awareness to the businesses that are out there. And because we're based in Chinatown, of course, it's also been tough because Chinatown specifically has taken multiple hits because of COVID. This xenophobia around just China in general, and so Chinatown was one of the first communities to be hit I couldn't believe just how desolate and quiet Chinatown had become. Growing up, we used to come to Chinatown all the time, every weekend, and to see it, like a year ago, it was just couldn't believe how quiet Chinatown had become. So to try to bring people back down there, hopefully, there'll be a lot. I know there are a lot of efforts going on right now, various organizations and nonprofits and these community groups that are trying to just bring people back to Chinatown, and hopefully that'll help. I don't know that there's anything that we can do specifically, other than getting involved in those efforts as well.
My other question is about the line dance.
Oh yeah, okay.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, so line dance, that's it's a fun part of what we do. It's for a lot of schools, particularly the Southern style schools. So it is a little bit more uncommon for Northern style to have, because it is a Southern line dance. But because in fact, the line dance that we see most commonly around Chinese New Year, it comes primarily from like Fatsan, and then there's Fatsan and Hoksan, but in the Guangdong province, right? And so, but our lineage, so it started in Shandong, and it's made its way to Hong Kong through Lo Guangyok, which was our sixth generation master, teaching it to Wang Fan. And even then, so it was the time spent, the generations in Hong Kong that kind of adapted or took on some of that tradition, and then coming to Sifu coming to the U.S. I think initially, I don't think he even learned his line dancing from his Sifu Brendan Lai. It was something that one of the reasons why Sifu decided to teach Chinese martial arts was to help promote that Chinese culture.
Okay.
And line dancing has become such a big part of a lot of kung fu schools. And in fact, a lot of times it's not exclusive to Chinese to kung fu schools, but a lot of kung fu schools had line dancing because it relied on very similar kind of skills. You needed that dedication and training, but the strength training, the stances, to be able to, the ability to, the arm strength to hold up in the lion. So in some schools, I believe it is said to help also enhance the training, right? So just doing stance training by itself could be very boring, but if now you're doing something a little bit more artistic with like the lion head, and even though we call it a dance, the movements are very demanding on the body. Watching some of these line dancers, the skills they need to wield that lion. They're often like things like obstacles, what we refer to as like when we do the choi chang, the eating of the green. There's a lettuce, or there's a lychee, there's an envelope, or whatever it is, and some of them can be very intricate. I've seen the more common ones you see are like the live fish in a bucket, and then how does the lion go in and eat the live fish? These are challenges that business will present to a line dance team. So we picked up line dancing. Sifu picked up line dancing. I think soon after he started teaching, and it's become this thing that we all like to do. Also, it's not necessarily tied to our martial arts training, but it is part of the culture, and we have a great time. We have a fun time doing it. Because he was so interested in it, he also pick up what is referred to as Northern line dancing, and that looks more like it's a different type, and there's some pictures of it on our website too. But the Northern line dance, it's more like in Beijing, and you would see like acrobatic troops. It looks more like a dog, mostly colored orange and yellow, and it's very like long haired and shaggy, and its movements are different too, and the music is different. But we over the years we'd practiced some Northern line dancing too, and there are many years where we would combine Northern and Southern together into the same performance, just to kind of show both, to kind of share our Chinese culture to as many people as we can. So line dancing is a lot of fun. We definitely enjoy doing it, and there are a lot of schools that do line dancing in New York as well.
Okay. Do all your students participate in it, or select?
No, it's optional, so we don't force anyone to do it. A large percentage of them do, because a lot of times they require a lot of manpower, right? Not just for the line dance team, but if we're doing a parade, then we also, to represent the school, there'll be people holding flags. Then there's musicians. So we have some people who are very musically inclined and they like to participate in the music aspect of it, but they might not be in the actual line. They might not be in a lion themselves. And then there are some people who maybe are less musically inclined, but they like the physical movements and they like the activity of doing line dance, and so they're in the lion. So, most of the time, everyone in the school will get involved because it becomes a school activity. But the actual performance of the line dance itself, it's totally up to the individual if they want to participate or not.
So I noticed you changed your background.
Yeah, just to show a little bit more about the school. This is one of the front wall with the windows, but we have the two lion heads hanging up. Two of our lion heads. I don't know. Sifu's accumulated a lot of lion heads over the years. I think we have about 10 or 12 lion heads. But these are two of them that we hang up on the wall. And the lions, not just for some people, they come into a Chinese school and they feel like they should see lions. It's such an integral part to a lot of Chinese schools. But I know I love having them up on the wall and seeing them. If I at one point in one of our previous locations, we had I think 6 of them just lined up across the top of one of the walls. It's just so nice, especially when we have some really nice looking lion heads. It's nice to be able to show them off.
When you're learning, how does the martial arts help you in your, I guess, when you were in college or high school?
So I think the biggest part about for me martial arts training has been discipline, and not just discipline like Sifu telling us what to do, but self-discipline. Having a certain sense of responsibility, but knowing what I need to do for myself. That's studying martial arts is really for myself. It's not for anyone else. It's not for my parents. It's what I want to get out of it. And a lot of times even part of the interaction between myself and my Sifu, he's also trying to teach me to be the right kind of person. We talk about like in a lot of Chinese kung fu schools, there's going to be a picture or a statue of who we refer to as General Guan, right? Guan Yu or Guan Gong, and why he's there is because he represents certain aspects or certain traits that we try to uphold: bravery, humility, righteousness, loyalty. These kind of traits I feel them all the time when I'm at the school. Like these are things that I try to attain. And then as it applies to how I behave at school or at work, even, am I treating my team members the right way? Am I being a good leader to them? Am I being, is what I do a good, am I leading by example? And that's not to say that you only get this from studying martial arts, but I do think it's part of what we refer to as modap, right? A martial virtue, right? When we practice martial arts, it's not just going to the school and training on the physical aspects of punching and kicking and techniques, but it should be about in Chinese we say right? That internal self-cultivation, right? Like the whole point of studying martial arts is about making myself better. And so that transcends to other things, everything we do, not just kung fu, but in my work ethic, how I perform at work, how I performed at school. Sometimes more successful than others, but I feel like it's kind of always there in the background. Maybe because I started training in martial arts at a young age, that I feel like it's kind of always there. It's become part of my value system just as much as the way things that my parents taught me.
Sifu have any video or training video or books that students can go look at, learn from?
So we didn't create any videos or materials, books, whatever for the explicit purpose of trying to teach somebody something like from a cold start. Similarly, like 2 generations ago, the 7th generation master Wang Hunfan. Wang Hunfan was based in Hong Kong, and he actually wrote a lot of books. He's got quite an extensive list of publications. He's got books on many of the forms, and even then, it wasn't necessarily to be, hey, here's a book and you can learn Praying Mantis from it. The phrase Sifu used to use, I learned a lot of these Chinese phrases from my Sifu. He'll say a phrase to me and he'll say, have you heard this before? I'm like, no. So, oh my God, you haven't heard this before? But Pao Chun Yan Yo, right? So you cast the brick in hopes of getting back some jade. right? So it's like that carrot, like put some information out there, let people get exposed to it, and if they really want to learn more, then they'll come and approach the school or SIPU to become, to really learn something. But the videos, like, so lately we've been putting out a lot of YouTube videos. Some of it is for just archival, just to document the things that we do. Some of it is to show because they're mostly forms that we're showing. In some cases, like a lot of times with each of our school anniversaries, we'll put out a commemorative journal, and Sibu's become he'll often include photos of a form in those journals. And again, those aren't meant, similarly to what Juan Fun did, they weren't meant to like teach somebody like our guests or people who came to the dinner to be able to learn this form, but it was maybe a reminder for the students if they needed I learned this form, but I can't quite remember what the sequence was, and now there's like this record of it, right, that has become available. So there's no video correspondence class. There's no like, here, buy this book and you can learn this. What we have put out is really just for us to document and record for ourselves. But we put it on YouTube so people can see, what it is that we do.
How do you guys get most of your business nowadays? How do people find you?
Yeah, I think it's, so YouTube, because we'll end all our videos with our website. So the YouTube videos drive people to the website. The website then, that's why we try to put as much information about what we do on the website so people have an idea exactly of where we come from.
Okay.
Definitely when we used to do a lot more performances in the community, then that was always a way that people would come to us. We used to do a lot of performances in Chinatown, or either during around Chinese New Year, or like even as I mentioned, how I started was I would see people performing in Columbus Park, and then people would approach us and ask and they want to get to know more. But yeah, nowadays it has been quieter. Siwa just told me recently that a few people have reached out to him to want to start with him. So honestly, I'm not sure. So a lot of times people just reach out to him directly.
Okay.
But Siwa's been very involved in the community. He's been he's been the commander for the American Legion post in Chinatown. He's been the president for some of the family associations. So he's very much involved in the community where people know him and they can come to him if they have a friend or a child or a relative who wants to study Chinese Kung Fu, and a lot of times that's how they'll come to us.
Hopefully this interview will actually get a lot of people to call you guys.
Well, thanks, Benson. We really appreciate all you're doing for the community, and just want to make sure to help support you.